What happens when two of television's most outspoken personalities collide on live television in a debate that nobody saw coming? The air in the studio grew thick with tension as Joy Behar and Kelly Clarkson found themselves on opposite sides of conversation that would escalate into one of the most talked about moments in daytime television history. Before we dive into exactly what was said that made Joy Behar do something she's never done before on The View, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us whose side you're on in this debate. Trust me, you're going to have opinions. The episode started like any other. Kelly Clarkson was scheduled as a guest to promote her latest album and talk about her journey in the music industry. The panel was in high spirits. The audience was energized, and everything seemed perfectly normal. But what began as a lighthearted conversation about music and motherhood took an unexpected turn when the topic shifted to authenticity in the entertainment industry. Joy leaned forward in her chair, her expression curious but friendly. So, Kelly, you've been very open about your struggles, your divorce, your experiences as a working mom. Do you ever feel like that vulnerability has been weaponized against you in this industry? Kelly smiled, seemingly comfortable with the question. You know, Joy, I think vulnerability is actually my greatest strength. I've built my entire career on being real with people. When I sing about heartbreak, it's because I've been there. When I talk about the chaos of getting 3 kids ready in the morning, it's because I live it every single day. Whoopi nodded approvingly from her seat, and Sarah Haynes chimed in with an encouraging comment about Kelly's relatability. But Joy wasn't finished. Right. But here's what I'm getting at, Joy continued, her tone sharpening slightly. There's a difference between being authentic and performing authenticity. In today's world, everyone has a brand. Everyone is selling something. Even vulnerability becomes a marketing strategy. The studio fell noticeably quieter. Kelly's smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered, sitting up a bit straighter in her chair. I'm sorry. Are you saying that my pain is a marketing strategy? Kelly asked, her voice still controlled, but with an edge that hadn't been there before. Joy raised her hands in a placating gesture. I'm not saying that specifically about you, Kelly. I'm talking about the industry as a whole. But let's be honest, you made millions talking about your divorce on your talk show. You've turned your personal struggles into content. That's just a fact. The other hosts exchanged glances. This was moving into uncomfortable territory, and fast. Kelly took a breath, clearly trying to maintain her composure. Joy, with all due respect, I think there's a huge difference between exploiting your pain and sharing your truth to help other people feel less alone. When I talk about my divorce, I'm not doing it for ratings. I'm doing it because I get thousands of messages from people telling me that hearing my story helped them through their own difficult times. But you do get ratings from it, Joy interjected, and you do get paid for those ratings. So where's the line? Kelly's jaw tightened. The line is intention. The line is authenticity. Just because something is popular doesn't mean it's fake. Just because I make a living doing something I love doesn't mean my emotions are performance. Sunny Hostin tried to jump in. I think what Joy might be trying to say is that in this age of social media and constant content creation, the lines have become blurred for everyone, not just Kelly. But Kelly was focused on Joy now, her eyes locked on the veteran host. No, I want to hear what Joy is actually trying to say. Because it sounds to me like you're suggesting that I'm not genuine, that I'm using my kids, my divorce, my real-life struggles as some kind of act. And if that's what you're saying, then let's talk about it directly. Joy leaned back in her chair, clearly not expecting Kelly to push back this hard. I'm saying that everyone in entertainment is performing to some degree, Kelly. That's the nature of the business. You're on television right now. You're mic'd up. There are cameras on you, and you're presenting a version of yourself. That's all I'm saying. A version of myself. Kelly's voice rose slightly. This is who I am, Joy. What you see is what you get. I don't have a television persona, and then go home and become a different person. I'm the same woman on my show that I am at my kitchen table. And honestly, I find it really frustrating that because I've been successful at connecting with people in an honest way, that somehow makes it less valid. The audience was completely silent now, sensing that this had moved beyond a typical talk show disagreement into something much more personal and raw. Joy, to her credit, didn't back down. Kelly, I've been in this business for over 40 years. I've seen every trend, every shift, every new wave of entertainers come through. And I'm telling you what you call authenticity. The industry calls content. Your authenticity is your brand. That's not a criticism. That's just reality. Kelly shook her head, her frustration evident. You're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. My authenticity is not my brand. My brand might include my authenticity, but they're not the same thing. I was authentic before I was famous, and I'll be authentic after I'm not famous anymore. This is who I am. But you are famous, Joy pressed, and you make choices every day about what to share and what not to share. That's curation. That's creating a narrative. Of course, I make choices, Kelly shot back. Everyone makes choices about what's private and what's public, but the things I do share are real. The emotions are real. The struggles are real. Just because I have a platform doesn't make my life performance. Whoopi finally stepped in, her voice calm but firm. Ladies, I think we're talking about two different things here, but Joy wasn't ready to let it go. Kelly, answer me this. When you're going through something difficult, when do you decide to share it? Is it in the moment, or is it after you've processed it and figured out how to frame it for your audience? Kelly paused, and in that pause, you could feel the weight of the question. That's not fair. Why isn't it fair? Joy asked. Because you're trying to trap me. Kelly responded, her voice steady but clearly emotional. If I say I share things in real time, you'll say I'm being impulsive and using my pain for content. If I say I process first, you'll say I'm calculating and performing. There's no right answer to your question because you've already decided what you think about me. The tension in the room had reached a breaking point. Joy straightened in her seat, her expression hardening. I haven't decided anything about you, Kelly. I'm asking legitimate questions about how modern celebrity works. If you can't handle that conversation, then maybe you're not as comfortable with authenticity as you claim to be. That statement landed like a bomb. Kelly's face flushed, and for a moment, it looked like she might stand up and walk off the set. But instead, she leaned forward, her voice low and controlled. You know what, Joy? You want to talk about performing? Let's talk about performing. You sit here every day and play the role of the provocator, the one who asks the tough questions, the one who's not afraid to push buttons. But that's a role too, isn't it? That's your brand, the edgy one, the controversial one. So before you start dissecting my authenticity, maybe look at your own. Gasps rippled through the audience. No one had expected Kelly Clarkson, America's sweetheart, to come back at Joy Behar with that level of directness. Joy's eyes widened, and a tight smile crossed her face. Oh, so now we're turning this around on me. I'm just following your logic, Kelly said, her voice gaining strength. If my vulnerability is a marketing strategy, then your confrontational style is too. If I'm performing authenticity, then you're performing toughness. We're both doing our jobs, Joy. The difference is I'm not sitting here questioning your motives or your integrity. Sonny tried again to mediate. I think we're all just trying to have a conversation about the complexity of being in the public eye. But Joy was locked in now, her focus entirely on Kelly. My confrontational style, as you call it, is about holding people accountable. It's about not letting celebrities come on television and sell us fairy tales without being challenged. That's journalism. What you do is entertainment. Kelly let out a short, incredulous laugh. What I do is entertainment. Joy, this is The View. This is a daytime talk show. You're not doing investigative journalism here. You're giving opinions and having conversations. Same as me. Same as every other talk show host out there. There's a difference. Joy insisted. We talk about politics, about real issues that affect people's lives. You talk about feelings. The condescension in that last word was unmistakable, and Kelly's expression shifted from frustrated to genuinely angry. I talk about feelings. Kelly repeated slowly. You know what, Joy? Feelings are real issues. When someone is struggling with depression, that's a real issue. When someone is going through a divorce and doesn't know how they're going to co-parent effectively, that's a real issue. When someone is dealing with body image problems because society has impossible standards, That's a real issue. Just because I'm not talking about congressional bills doesn't mean what I do doesn't matter. Alyssa Farah Griffin jumped in, clearly trying to de-escalate. Kelly makes a great point. Mental health and personal struggles are incredibly important topics, but Joy wasn't having it. Of course, they're important. But let's not pretend that discussing your personal life on television is the same as advocacy. Real advocacy happens off camera in communities with actual change-making work. Kelly's voice rose, her patience clearly exhausted. Are you serious right now? I have raised millions of dollars for charity. I work with countless organizations supporting children, supporting education, supporting people in crisis. I don't need to justify my impact to you or to anyone else. And frankly, Joy, this attitude of yours, this gatekeeping about what counts as meaningful work, it's exactly the kind of elitism that turns people off. Elitism? Joy's voice pitched higher. I'm the elitist. You're the one with the multi-million-dollar talk show deal. The mansion, the lifestyle brand. Don't talk to me about elitism. Having success doesn't make someone an elitist. Kelly fired back, being dismissive of other people's work because it doesn't fit your narrow definition of important. That's elitism. Looking down on emotional vulnerability and calling it just feelings, that's elitism. You want to know what I think, Joy? I think you're uncomfortable with the fact that I built something successful by being open and honest because it challenges your idea of how things should work. Whoopi raised her voice, trying to regain control of the segment. Okay, ladies, I think we need to take a breath here. But Joy wasn't stopping. You haven't challenged anything, Kelly. You just figured out how to monetize relatability. Good for you. But don't stand here and act like you're some kind of revolutionary because you cry on television and people watch it. The audience let out a collective sound of shock. Several people could be heard murmuring disapproval. Even the other hosts looked stunned at how harsh Joy's words had become. Kelly stood up from her seat, her body language screaming that she was done with this conversation. But she didn't storm off. Instead, she stood there looking directly at Joy with an intensity that commanded the room. You know what's really sad about this, Joy? I came here today excited to talk to you. I respect your career. I respect what you've built. I grew up watching you and thinking you were this fearless woman who spoke truth to power. But right now, all I see is someone who's so caught up in being the toughest person in the room that you've forgotten how to have empathy. You've forgotten what it means to actually connect with people instead of just performing connection. Joy stood up as well, matching Kelly's energy. Don't you dare psychoanalyze me. You don't know me. You don't know what I've been through or what I stand for. You're right. I don't know you, Kelly said, her voice breaking slightly with emotion. But I know what you've shown me today. And what you've shown me is someone who would rather tear another woman down than have an actual conversation. Someone who would rather win an argument than find common ground. And honestly, that breaks my heart because I thought you were better than this. The silence in the studio was deafening. Joy's face had gone red. Her hands were trembling slightly, and the other hosts were frozen, unsure of how to intervene in what had become an incredibly personal confrontation. Joy took a step closer to the table, her voice shaking with anger. You think you can come on my show and lecture me about how to treat people? You think you can stand there with your perfect image and your perfectly packaged pain and tell me I'm the one performing? I have been fighting for women's rights, for social justice, for real causes since before you were born. Kelly, don't you dare suggest that what I do doesn't have empathy at its core. Then show it, Kelly challenged, tears now visible in her eyes, but her voice still strong. Show empathy right now. Admit that maybe you came at this conversation with some preconceived notions about me. Admit that maybe you've been harsh. Because right now, Joy, you're proving every point I've made. Joy opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. For the first time since the argument began, she seemed at a loss for words. She looked at the other hosts, then at the audience, then back at Kelly. The cameras captured every second of her internal struggle, the conflict playing out across her face as she wrestled with how to respond. Finally, she spoke, her voice quieter, but no less intense. You want me to admit I've been harsh? Fine. I've been harsh. That's who I am. I don't do soft. I don't do gentle. That's not my style, and it never has been. But don't mistake directness for lack of empathy. Don't mistake tough questions for cruelty. But it was cruel. Joy, Kelly said softly, wiping at her eyes. Whether you meant it to be or not, it was cruel. You question my integrity. You dismiss my work. You belittle my connection with my audience. That's not tough questions. That's just being mean. Joy flinched at the word mean, and something in her expression shifted. The word hung in the air between them. Mean. Joy Behar, who had built a career on being sharp, witty, and unafraid, had just been called mean to her face on live television. And for a moment, just a brief moment, vulnerability flashed across her features before the armor went back up. Mean. Joy repeated, her voice hollow. That's what you think of me. Kelly didn't back down in this moment. Yes, that's exactly what I think. Because you haven't just disagreed with me. Joy, you've attacked who I am as a person. You suggested that my emotions aren't real, that my connection with people is fake, that everything I've built is just manipulation. How else would you describe that except mean? Whoopi stood up now, too, her voice firm. Okay, I think we need to stop this right now. This has gone too far. But Joy held up a hand, stopping Whoopi mid-sentence. The look on Joy's face was complex. A mixture of anger, defensiveness, and something else. Something that looked almost like shame. She stared at Kelly for a long moment, and the entire studio waited to see what would happen next. You're right, Joy said finally, and the shock in the room was palpable. You're right. I was mean. Kelly's eyes widened, clearly not expecting that admission. Joy continued, her voice rough with emotion. I came into this conversation with an agenda. I want to make a point about celebrity culture and authenticity, and I used you to make that point without really considering you as a person. That was wrong. The other hosts exchanged glances of disbelief. This was not how anyone expected this to go. Kelly remained standing, her arms crossed, still guarded, but listening. But here's the thing, Kelly, Joy went on, sitting back down heavily in her chair. You're not wrong about me either. I do perform toughness. I do use confrontation as my brand. And maybe somewhere along the way, I forgot that there's a difference between asking tough questions and just being tough for the sake of it. Sarah Haynes looked like she might cry, moved by the unexpected turn the conversation had taken. Kelly slowly sat back down as well, maintaining eye contact with Joy. I appreciate you saying that. I really do. But Joy, I need you to understand something. When you question someone's authenticity, the way you question mine, you're not just making a point about celebrity culture. You're attacking something deeply personal. My authenticity, my willingness to be vulnerable, that's not a strategy one developed. That's how I survived. That's how I got through abuse, through heartbreak, through every hard thing that's happened in my life. So when you suggest it's all just performance, it feels like you're invalidating my entire existence. Joy nodded slowly, absorbing Kelly's words. I hear you and I'm sorry. I truly am. I think I got so caught up in making my argument that I stopped seeing you as a person and started seeing you as a representative of something I have issues with. That's not fair to you. Thank you, Kelly said quietly, wiping her eyes again. And look, I get it. I understand your skepticism about celebrity culture. There are absolutely people who fake authenticity for likes and followers. There are people who exploit their pain for profit, but that's not everyone, and it's not me. Joy leaned forward, her elbows on the table. Can I ask you something? And I'm asking this genuinely now, not trying to trap your score points? Kelly nodded. Go ahead. How do you do it? Joy asked, her voice softer than it had been all segment. How do you stay authentic in an industry that's constantly trying to package you, market you, make you into a product? Because that's real. That pressure is real. How do you navigate that? Kelly took a breath, considering the question. Honestly, it's hard. Every single day, it's hard. There are absolutely times when I have to make choices about what to share and what to keep private. There are times when I question my own motives. Am I talking about this because it will help someone, or am I talking about it because it's good for my brand? And I don't always know the answer to that question. But what I do know is that I try to check in with myself. I try to make sure that even when I'm being public about something, it's coming from a real place. And I accept that I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to get it wrong sometimes. But the trying matters. The intention matters. Joy nodded thoughtfully. The intention matters. Yeah, I can respect that. Sonny, who had been quiet for several minutes, finally spoke up. I think what we're seeing here is actually really important. Two successful women in entertainment, having a real conversation about the pressures they face, the judgments they deal with, the constant navigation between public and private. This is a kind of honest dialogue we need more of. Alyssa agreed, and the fact that you both were willing to push through the discomfort and actually hear each other, that's